start this hour with U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that the ongoing military campaign against Iran could last longer than initially planned. Speaking from the White House, Trump has stated that the U.S. is already ahead of its time projections, which estimated a duration of 4 to 5 weeks. However, he has emphasized that the U.S. has the capability to continue far beyond that time frame. President Trump has also defended his decision to launch the strike, calling it the last best chance to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions and eliminate the threats posed by the Iranian regime. He has reiterated that this action was necessary to prevent the potential development of nuclear weapons by Iran. Let's listen in.
This was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime. And they are indeed sick and already substantially ahead of our time projections. But whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks. But we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, if the president wants to do it really quickly, after that he'll get bored. I don't get bored. It's not.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stated that the ongoing U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran won't become an endless war, but warned the conflict could take some time. In an interview, Netanyahu has explained that both countries acted because Iran had been building new nuclear weapon sites, making them impossible to target in the near future. Netanyahu has also highlighted that Iran had been constructing underground bunkers for its missile and atomic bomb programs since the June war. Let's listen in.
I said it could be quick and decisive. It may take some time, but it's not going to take years. It's not an endless war. The reason that we had to act now is because they were, after we hit their nuclear sites and their ballistic missiles program, you'd think they learned a lesson, but they didn't, because they're unreformable. They're totally fanatic about this, about the goal of destroying America. So they started building new sites, new places, underground bunkers, that would make their ballistic missile program and their atomic bomb programs immune within months. If no action was taken now, no action could be taken in the future. And then they could target America, they could blackmail America, they could threaten us and threaten everyone in between. So action had to be taken, and you needed a resolute president like Donald J. Trump.
Now we welcome Mr. Daniel Boardman. He's a Canadian journalist, joins us live from Toronto for my first question. Thank you very much, Mr. Boardman, for joining us. Now, thank you. Now, how do you analyze the current escalating situation? Do you think that this Operation Epic Fury is going to continue for a long time?
Well, I mean, I know, like, by long time, do you mean as long as the Iraq War or the Afghanistan War? No. Is it going to be longer than the 12-day war? Most likely. I mean, I think we've said around 4 weeks. And I do think it'd be around that time. If you want, like, a time frame generally of what you're talking about, I do think they want to have this wrapped up as a victory by the midterms in November, if we're going to talk about a sort of like political will that's going to wrapped up by. So I do think there's a genuine will, if there is any hard timeline. I think that's kind of what you're looking at maybe there. But it depends on how, again, it's a war, so it depends on how everything goes. You can't say like, well, how long is it going to take? Well, you know, both sides get to play the game. It depends who shoots back. Does someone gain power? Do the Iranian generals start fighting among themselves? Do they rally? How many proxies come into play? How many this and that? Does Reza Pahlavi, you know, get a civilian army? Does it, like, there's 100 different ways this can go. We're on day 2, so it's going to be a few days. I mean, assets are still now moving into the region further. I think you'll have to wait and see until the full degradation of the IRGC forces and their ability to sort of commit war, and then once you have, like, you know, full U.S. air assets, you'll start to see what is the situation on the ground. Like, how much control can the Iranians maintain over their own civilians, and then what happens there. So a lot of things still happen in the pacing. It's impossible 2 days into this thing to predict exactly when it's going to end. But I do think it does sound like they came in military planning. There was a sort of at least a 4-week timeline in which they thought it would take to degrade enough of Iran's central command to the point where they'd get to this point. But it turns out Khamenei wanted to have a meeting with a bunch of high-ranking officials,
Yes.
and they just took the opportunity to get ahead of schedule. So here we are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boardman, for sharing that. I'd like to also welcome Mr. Daniel Wagner. He's the CEO of Country Risk Solutions, joins us live from Portland. Thank you very much, Mr. Wagner, for joining us again. Mr. Wagner, what's your take? And also, do you think that building on Mr. Boardman's answer, do you think that how will Iran move on with their strategy in balancing counterattacks while also controlling the country within Iran or the proxies and etc., and also protecting their sovereignty?
Well, there's a lot of unknown unknowns here. Let's talk at least about what they're doing domestically and what they're doing in response to the attacks. In response to the attacks, it seems to me what they're doing is they have limited ability to respond with materiel. Their ballistic missile capability has been degraded. Their ability to deploy their navy has been severely degraded. Many of their ships are at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. So what I think they're doing is they're measuring very carefully how they are responding to preserve what firepower they have. So when we see that they're reaching out and attacking half a dozen Gulf states with sporadic missile attacks or drone attacks, seems to me what they're doing is trying to catch these Gulf states off guard, not to draw them in, not to attack enough to draw them in, but to make them weary, to keep them on guard, to ensure that their populations are scared, that their governments are preoccupied, etc. My own view is that they don't have much in the way of drones and missiles to have sustained heavy bombardments of US military bases or other targets. So let's see. I would imagine that in the space of a week, much of this will be resolved. Not entirely, but in terms of the bulk. As far as domestic goes, they still have the ability, very much so, to repress their population. And that's really the biggest question mark that we have now, is to what extent do they have the ability to project their power domestically like they did before?
And I would like to go to Mr. Boardman next. Mr. Boardman, do you think there's a difference of strategy in the Iranian foreign minister versus the Iranian IRGC forces? Do you think there's maybe different opinion there? Do you think there's internal cracks or difference?
No, this is sort of a function of the regime, and the foreign ministry has been, like, if you want to categorize it, part of the reformist wing of the Islamic Republic, which has never really existed. There's this game that the Islamic Republic has played with the world of, like, hardliner or reformist. Oh, IRGC, hardliner or reformist. But it's always been a dog and pony show for gullible Western leaders, for the most part, to play this. So the foreign minister, their job is to sort of push propaganda that is kind of digested in the Western world. Essentially lie. Their job is to lie. Okay, so they're incredibly skilled liars, whereas you would find the more radical clerics sort of telling the truth, but they do it in Farsi to their own people, and that's sort of where you can tell the truth. So, the Iranian foreign minister will forever going on about how they're peaceful, and, they don't want nukes, but they have nukes, but they're peaceful nukes, but they're not trying to build, like, so, in terms of cracks and divisions between the foreign ministry, no, they're going to continue to sort of, their job is to lie in a way that is palatable to Westerners, to cause, strategic destabilization among the populace to erode support for the war, you could say. But yeah, they're lying is the short of it, and the IRGC generals are trying to kill everyone they can. That's their job. So they're trying to bring about a 12th Imam apocalypse for bring back the Mahdi. That's their job, and the Iranian foreign minister from Javad Zarif to the current one, his job is to lie to you. So
And
that's what's going.
thank you, Mr. Boardman, for sharing that. Building on that, Mr. Wagner, what's your take?
Well, I have a similar view. Part of what they do is for domestic consumption, part of it is for foreign consumption. I've always been very skeptical about when they have a, quote, reformist president or some other senior reformist person, a foreign minister. There is no proper reformist wing of their government. I mean, it's been hardline since 1979, and even though there may be variations on a theme, the basics of the government haven't changed. And that, of course, is what we're trying to arrange now. Question in my mind is whether the Iranian people are going to feel emboldened enough to rise up. And only time is going to tell, of course. They're going to have seen that the domestic capabilities of the government have been sufficiently degraded to enable them, if you will, to do what President Trump has asked of them, which is to take over their government. I know that they still believe that they will be slaughtered if they do so right now, which is presumably why we're not seeing that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wagner, for sharing that. Requesting both the guests to please stay with us. Now,